units. The 6th Battalion.
The Vietnam War, as the First War, was the first televised war to the public, and unique compared to the other wars.
Yes, that's true. As the course of the war went on, it was constantly televised and covered in the news. There was no limit to what was covered in the news, and with no limitation, horrific scenes were shown, greatly affecting the public's opinions and thoughts on the war. A specific example of the event or scene that occurred, which was televised live, when Vietnamese General Nguyen Ngoc Loan executed Viet Cong prisoner Nguyen Van Linh.
The media played quite an important role during the war, and many people believe it determined the outcome of the war. This was the first war that was allowed the citizens and people of the Home Front to have insight into the war and see what was happening. With this, it undoubtedly affected the support of the public had for the war.
This demonstration dwarfed all previous ones. Flag burning hurts national pride but breaks no heads. And this, much credit to the demonstrators and police, was a day when democracy triumphed and heads were used for rational thinking by the great majority.
The media and news coverage of the war allowed people to see the killing of mass amounts of Viet Cong soldiers and even innocent civilians. This led to the public to have a pre-convinced opinion that the Vietnam soldiers were all cowards or baby killers. Due to this, when the time came for the soldiers to return home, they were treated with such disrespect and hate and vulgar name-calling rather than being called heroes and saviours.
The on-screen image is a primary source which shows US Marines calling from foxholes that's located south of the DMZ in Vietnam during 1966. The helicopter shown was shot down when it came to resupply the US Marine units with different rations to survive.
The Vietnam War was very iconic in the middle of the war and in the media at the time, and even pop culture years after the war. In pop culture, such as movies and songs and that, it's been portrayed, such as a movie, it's very famous called Forrest Gump.
One day, it started raining, and it didn't quit for 4 months. We've been through every kind of rain there is. A little bit of stinging rain, and big old fat rain. Rain that flew in sideways, and sometimes rain even seemed to come straight up from underneath.
In this scene of Forrest Gump, it's showing how Forrest is always talking about how it's raining during the war. This gives us an insight into the difficult weathers that the troops had to deal with during the war. These difficult adventures would have given the soldiers a lot of mental challenges like PTSD or trauma.
I told you to stop fucking with me, didn't I? You think you're so bad, huh, nigga?
What are you shooting at, soldier?
Goof, man, what the fuck you think I'm shooting at? Son? I'm sorry, sir. There are goofs out there by the wire, but I think I killed them all.
In Apocalypse Now, this scene shows a soldier firing an artillery gun from where they're taking defense from the enemies. By the way he's yelling and speaking, we can tell that the war life has altered his behaviour and made him go crazy, especially due to the back-to-back mixed emotions and tones he displayed from when he was yelling and when he was speaking calmly.
In these movies, it shows the viewer what it was like during the war. It also briefly but evidently shows the kind of warfare and weapons that were used in Vietnam. These films also teach the viewers about the conditions of the soldiers were living in and what their lives were like both during and not during the battle.
The Vietnam War has also been portrayed through different songs that relate specifically to the events of the war or a person. Some of the most famous songs about the war include I Was Only 19. Some lyrics of the song portray a much deeper meaning and describe what the soldiers saw.
And Frankie kicked a mine the day that mankind kicked the moon. God help me.
That line just said that Frankie kicked the mine the day that mankind kicked the moon. God help me. This song obviously explains the time when a soldier's friend, Frankie, stepped on a mine and got burned up in front of his eyes, which obviously would have left the person with a lot of PTSD.
Pop culture has also portrayed the Vietnam War through the creation and screenings of documentaries. These documentaries are the most real forms of war representation. The documentaries give insight and show the viewers first-hand events and scenes that took place during the war. It specifically shows what happened during the war and explains in depth some of the real events from the war. Documentaries are also very unique as they show what is happening on the battlefield and the home front. Some documentaries include Last Days in Vietnam, Far from Vietnam.
The previously listed representations of the Vietnam War in the media portray various different perspectives of the war. The songs represent how the soldier felt both during the war and coming home after the war. The songs also help us understand the PTSD that the soldiers experienced after the war through some lyrics in the songs.
Post-traumatic stress was extremely prevalent within the mental health of young soldiers who previously came back from the war. The PTSD that soldiers all developed due to actions that they saw and were forced to commit during the war has been shown in almost every movie and song made about war, which is a very serious topic.
Due to these movies or songs showing the PTSD, the public later realised that they treated the soldiers unfairly when they got home. They discovered that the soldiers didn't actually want to be a part of the war, and a lot of the things they soldiers did were forced upon them.
At the end of the day, the Vietnam War was the Vietnam War, and the media represents it how it wants to. However, we can take certain things from the media representations, including things like the way soldiers felt and the mental health the soldiers had during the war.